Good morning, Theo.
Morning,
Um,
Graham.
how are you?
I'm fine, but you obviously are going to be a lot happier than me this morning.
I am. As a Liverpool fan, this has kind of been a very good 24 hours and, to be honest, a really good couple of seasons for us. So yeah, I'm a happy bunny at the moment.
30 years of pain.
Oh, we're straight into the banter on the football, are we?
I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
would you
been
ever,
tough.
would anyone ever put money on Henderson being the captain of a team that wins the European Cup and the Premier League and the club championship? I mean, it's just unbelievable achievement.
No, and I have to agree with you. He's kind of one of those players that he's not like a Gerrard used to be for a Liverpool or the Scholes or Butts for United that kind of you could see their skills and their qualities. But that guy just works so hard for the team. And I think, the Liverpool team, everyone talks about the front three and they talk about the goalkeeper and Van Dijk, but that midfield is just so hard working. And I think that's kind of probably what's won us the league. And I think Henderson should be the player of the season for the Premier League.
Amazing, amazing. Anyway, enough of that. That,
Okay.
that, that was yesterday. So can we move on? It's all about next season now.
I think I'm going to take this weekend to celebrate, but yeah, you're right. So Theo, Western Union and a number of your business partners have been working together for a number of years now. From a consumer perspective, we've had a relationship with the Ryman business with over 200 stores, and we're in a fourth year and growing strongly. I think last year in February, we started expanding into Robert Dyer's retail locations. And then from a business perspective, we've been working with MB Partners for a number of years now, looking at solutions for your partners and how we can offer kind of business FX and payments. Clearly, we're in unusual and difficult times, which is why we wanted to join you on the digital arena and kind of have a little bit of an interview with you and ask you a couple of questions in terms of your business. But before we started, I just wanted to check, you're looking very healthy, that everyone in the MB Partners and TPRG group are doing okay.
Thank you, Graham. Yeah, it's been very strange. I mean, I'm back in the office. I'm in my office. I'm going to zoom back out just to show you that I actually am in the office. There we are. This is not my front room. And it's much quieter than my front room and much, much nicer because I've got air conditioning. So I don't have to sit there sweltering at 30 degrees. But now it's nearly back to business as the new usual, because it won't be business as usual. It's a new norm. We got about 200 people here. This is TPRG Towers. Normally we'd have 200 people. We've probably got 10 in today.
Wow.
And I really cannot see us having more than 100 in at any one time now.
And is that because you don't think it's safe to do so, or that you've seen that people can work from home remotely?
Well, there's a combination of factors, both of those factors, because if we take into account the only way we're going to go back to normal is if one or two things happens: a vaccine or an effective treatment. And at the moment, we've got neither. So we will have to maintain some form of social distancing. Second point is this pandemic has forced us to accelerate our digital footprint and the way we work digitally, like we're doing here today. And it's been very effective. Some people actually prefer it. I like the personal relationships, but some people say, look, Theo, I only have to come into the office a couple of days a week. I can quite easily work with my team remotely, and I don't have to do the 2-hour commute or 3-hour commute round trip. So I think it's a combination of things. So even when we go back to the old normal, it will change the way we do business. And we've got to now very quickly take on board this 5-year acceleration of digital and embrace it. because it is two things. It's not going to go away. It will only accelerate further.
So you have a strong digital business with, with Ryman's online, etc. How are you accelerating that? What are you looking at?
Well, it's strangely, Robert Dyers, some weeks during his close down, did as much business online as it did previous year with 100 shops.
Wow.
So what we've seen is our customers very much now adopt and embrace online. You may argue that we're always going to do that, but they've done it in a much faster way. So all our investment at the moment is very much focused on making sure that our online offering is, I don't want to use the words world beating, but is up there and offers everything the customer could want, so we're giving added value. And our store estate can then be that supporting role to allow the customer to have as many touch points as they want with us. And irrespective of where that touch point takes place, the technology recognizes them and serves them in the way that they expect to be served, whether that's through additional loyalty bonuses, free deliveries, other benefits that they've accrued.
That makes complete sense.
So what we've done to that, we've invested on our digital backbone, but also, while this lockdown has been going on, we've signed off a complete new generation. I was going to say tills, but they're not, they're terminals for each of our Robert Dyers and Ryman stores to allow us to have this anywhere touch point and you will be recognized.
So basically a true omni-channel experience.
Yeah, and in conjunction with the last part of the development that's happening now, you will be able to just take something in our store and using your app, your Robert Dyers Ryman TBRG app, just swipe it and walk out.
Wow.
So that's not quite there in the next 6 months, but it will be there for next year. But the hardware, we've already started installing. In fact, I can confess, because I was bored, I went and installed the Kingston Ryman store.
Okay, how long did it take you?
Well, I had a stopwatch going and I wanted to see how difficult it was to rip out a till and put the new terminal in. It took me 28 minutes to rip out the existing till because I didn't know what I was doing.
Okay.
And 20 minutes to install the new terminal.
That's super quick, isn't it?
And I put through £200 worth of transactions straight away.
Wow. And I think it's something that Western Union is trying to work with your group as well, because we know at the moment people want to look at different ways of experience at retail, being mindful of social distancing. So I think we've been looking at kind of more card payments. We've been looking at how we can use our app to potentially stage a transaction so the customer can do the work and then go in. And then also looking at payments into bank accounts, because we know in some countries the networks aren't kind of fully open, or people don't really want to go always into a retail location in certain jurisdictions. So it's good to see that, kind of our strategies are aligning. Theo, in terms of kind of the retail business, do you see kind of things shifting within the retail footprint, perhaps, as an example, away from city centres to more kind of local high streets?
Well, the problem we've got, we're just coming out of a very, very strict lockdown. And there's been a lot of pent-up demand as we've opened our stores, not in shopping centres, but in the high streets. But we're not quite sure yet if that's totally indicative of the swing, or it's a fact that people haven't got about their normal day-to-day lives and they're staying local. But there's definitely a bias to staying local at the moment. And because of that, our stores are actually trading incredibly well, much at the high end of any expectations that we had.
That's good news. Good news for the business and good news for kind of, I guess, the retail
Yeah.
high street. Do you have any?
We've got Western Union branded sneeze screens in front of all our tills. So there you are. You're pride of place.
I appreciate that. I think you know, the teams have worked really hard together to kind of try and work on these things and provide stuff that helps the staff and customers in those stores.
No, thank you for that.
No, my pleasure. Do you have any advice for small businesses as they're going through these kind of difficult times and changes in consumer demand?
I think we're at one of those stages now that the only thing I can say to you, you just got to stay agile, have an open mind, and whatever you were doing before might not necessarily be what you need to do today or in the future. In fact, highly likely it'll be different.
Okay, that makes sense. And I wanted to go back a little bit. You know, you're a serial entrepreneur and have a range of different business interests. Can you tell me what your first business investment was and how that went?
My first business investment was very simple. I purchased for the total sum of 57 English pounds, 2 desks, 2 chairs, and a filing cabinet out of the Legal and General second-hand furniture storage area in Kingswood that allowed me to set up my new office and set up on my own.
What were you doing on your own?
So I set up a finance brokerage. So it was raising finance and insurance, although insurance came out a little bit later. But I'd already been working with Legal and General, and I'd worked for them for several years. When I developed certain instruments that were attractive to the brokers that I was visiting. And it became clear to me they were making a lot of money out of this, and I wasn't.
Yeah.
And I was on the wrong side of the fence.
Okay.
So having discussed with my manager that I had to give him my Vauxhall Chevette company car back, but he did allow me to keep my subsidised mortgage for a year on the basis that I only did business with them in the first year. He said, "Got to see old Harry." He says, "He looks after all our facilities here." He says, "If you want some furniture, because we've got it was a cricket pavilion full of it." And for just over 50 quid, Harry actually delivered it. So
wow.
A little room, one serviced room in Croydon. So that was the best investment, quite honestly, because it allowed me to have an instant office.
I can see you're still smiling while you remember it.
Oh, I'm just laughing about it because it was one of my proudest moments. You know, sitting there, didn't have a telephone. That was still to come, but I was there. And there was no such things as mobiles in those days. They didn't exist. I was very, very proud of that moment. And from then onwards, I went on and invested in lots of other businesses on the way, and found that my true love, which was back to retail, where I started. We talked about, in the past, we talked about Watches of Switzerland, where I did start work. And my happiest days were in retail. So even though I was involved in finance and insurance, I couldn't really wait to ditch it and make retail my full-time job again.
Okay. And any investments that didn't turn out so well, or you regret making?
You mustn't have regrets in life.
Okay.
I've made absolutely loads of crappy investments. And anybody who said they haven't is a liar.
Okay.
You don't get them all right. But I've never bet the farm. And I've always got more right than wrong.
Okay.
So when I've got them wrong, you have to recognize you've got them wrong, move on, ditch them, cut away, move on, and take your losses and put your efforts very clearly in the ones that have a prize.
I guess, yeah, if you want to invest, you've got to be open to taking a controlled level of risk, and have that appetite.
Calculated risks. That's what it's about. You never bet the farm.
Yeah.
But you take calculated risk. What's my risk? What's my reward?
Yeah. And where does the passion for sports, with MB Sports and previously Millwall, etc., come from in terms of business?
That's just exactly the same as retail. I've always been sports mad, most sports, and to have the opportunity to actually be part of an industry, a sports industry, it is an absolute privilege. And to do it as a job, to do the things you love, well, it's not real work. It's absolutely the utopia, really, of life, to be able to get up in the morning and go and do something you really, really love and are passionate about, and it's your hobby, it's your love, it's what you want to do, and you get paid for it as well.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like work. It feels like something you do at a weekend.
Yeah.
Great. And Theo, what role does the part of partnerships, which this interview is for MB Partners, where does partnerships fit into your overall business model? How important is it for you?
Well, partnerships have always been key in all my businesses. When we look at Ryman, look at Robert Dyer's, we're high street stores, but we're full of brands. And whilst we've got some of our own brand, it's a tiny proportion of our business. The rest is working with brands in a partnership for mutual benefit. And that is, we give them, in the retail sector, we give them the exposure on the high street in front of the customer. And they lend us their brilliant brands to be able to do that. So it's very much a partnership and working together. And a partnership's about all parties benefiting. It's not just a supply. It's about a longer term. I've owned Ryman for over 25 years. And I still have the same partnerships I had when I bought the business.
Wow.
Now, some people, I've got some new ones as well, but those original ones are so strong that in good times and bad, it's allowed us to see through various recessions and still be a strong retail force in the high street.
I agree. I think to have a successful long-term relationship, it has to be based on both parties winning. Otherwise it just doesn't work. And having that kind of trust, open dialogue, alignment on kind of strategy. But I think also, there's then the commitment, and actually we see that a huge amount from your business entities, the commitment to drive the business, and then going down to the kind of almost a service level. Actually, we get great feedback from our customers in your stores, because customers have choice, as you kind of alluded to before, with digital, with retail, with competitors, which is great for the market. But what differentiates then is where if we have a similar product and a similar brand, it's the service that they receive. And, you know, I have to say your team do a great job in kind of driving that.
Thank you.
So just a final question from me, Theo. What's the first thing you're going to do when the new normal is over and everything's back to the old normal?
Well, if you ask Mrs. P, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to shave my beard off.
Okay.
But that's her first thing I should do.
Okay.
The thing I'm looking forward to in a week's time is going to the pub and trying to do some of those things that we took so much for granted in the past. Go to a restaurant and, even with the difficulties of social distancing, enjoy and try and get back to some form of normality, the new normality. Because as I said, it won't be the same as the past. Not until we get a vaccine or we get a treatment. So it's just the simple things. You don't realize how much you miss that social interaction.
I agree.
With your friends, your family, your relatives. You know, again, we're able to see people now, but you can't, you know, I'm Mediterranean, we hug and we kiss. You know, you got to go, you do this virtual hugging and kissing, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry.
So yeah, just really, it sounds a bit of a cop-out, but it's really simple things that we took for granted.
Okay. Thanks, Theo. Theo, I really appreciate your time. Thank you for kind of talking to me today. I wish you the very best. I hope to see all those kind of changes in the retail business, and I hope that, you know, everything kind of continues on the upward trajectory for you. So thank you very much. Take care, and hopefully we'll meet up again soon. I'm
sure we will, Graham. Thank you, and thank you for your support in MB Partners and obviously the TPRG Group, Ryan and Robert Dyers. It's great working with you guys. It seems that we've been working forever together, but it's only about 3 or 4 years. But yeah, the teams have really worked well together, and we've touched on it earlier. It really feels like a partnership. That's great to hear. No, I appreciate that. And you are great partners to work with. So I really appreciate your kind comments, and it's great to work with the teams. Thank you. Thanks. Bye.